Hi, I'm Nico.
And I'm Adri, and I'm from America and he's from Sweden. So we thought it could be interesting to react to this video. We haven't watched it yet, so we'll see what we talk about, but yeah, let's get to it.
Let's do it.
So the first thing that I noticed when I touched down at LAX was just how friendly and loud and open and social Americans really are. I mean, after living in Sweden in a society where people are more quiet and reserved in general, it really stood out to me as soon as I handed my passport into the border security in LAX, for example. They greeted me with a smile and said, "Hey, welcome back." I could just sense that very open friendliness that Americans have, and that is something that I miss about living in America. But the nice thing about Sweden is that when Swedes do open up with you, you really do get that deep connection that I think can be a little bit harder to find in America at times. A lot of people are more open and bubbly and friendly on the outside, but then again, you can make amazing connections with Swedish people, which I feel really lucky to have after having lived in Sweden for the past year and a half. Another example of this is just like...
Yeah, I mean, as a Swede, you tend to respect people's privacy more and people's space, so you tend to not go out of your way to, talk to others. And it's not necessarily that you're rude or anything, but you sort of expect the same from others, and so you do the same. So.
Yeah, I'm not like that at all.
Yeah.
Moving here, have you actually noticed that, or?
Yeah, that's for sure. And
okay.
yeah, and it's definitely something that makes you feel good, that you get positive energy from others. But I mean, in the beginning when I just got here, I really struggled with being sort of receptive to it, so I wouldn't necessarily seek eye contact with people to try to say hi and stuff like that. So I probably came across as being kind of rude or something, and I was kind of aware of it, but that was also sort of like out of my comfort zone.
The second thing I've noticed about being back in America is how unequal the society is in America. I mean, Sweden has a much more socialistic system in general, where people are very much more towards the middle. There's not like super rich or super poor. Most of the time people are really, really well taken care of, even the people that don't necessarily have a lot. But here in America, especially in LA, I've noticed a lot of homeless people, for example, and I haven't put any footage of them in this video just because I don't want to be disrespectful to those people, but you see a lot of homeless people on the streets sleeping in tents and those sorts of things. And then you go up and you see mansions that cost tens of millions of dollars up in the hills or out by the beach, and it's really, really crazy how uneven it can be at times. And America's a place where if you have a lot of money, you can live an extremely good life here. The taxes are not going to be as high as what you would be paying in Sweden, but for those people out there that are struggling just to get by, it can be very, very difficult, especially if they want to send their kids to college or do healthcare and all of those things. All these things cost money in America, so I think the average person might have a little bit easier time getting by in Sweden.
Well, we talk about this literally all the time. So.
Yeah, this could probably be a whole separate video in itself, and he covered a lot there. In Sweden, people are a lot more equal in a way. Even if you work a blue-collar job, like if you work at a restaurant or in a clothing store or grocery store, you tend to make pretty good money. They also have this thing where if you work certain hours and on weekends, you get paid double your hourly wage, which is pretty huge. So people can get by very well even if they don't go to college and they decide to work in those type of blue-collar jobs.
And that's the other thing of like the price of education. So those people are choosing not to go to college, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't go to college because it's not as expensive in the US. You actually get paid to go to college versus here people go into debt all the time because they have to pay for their education.
So that's a big one where you don't pay for education or healthcare really that much in Sweden, so that's not gonna be the deciding factor between if you are rich then you can go to college and if you're not you can't. So I definitely agree with him on that.
Now this third point is something that I absolutely love about America, and that is how diverse America is as a country. I mean, we've got people from all over the place. America is a nation of immigrants. Most people, if you go back a few generations, you typically came from somewhere else. For example, I refer to myself in America as coming from a German family, or my mom's parents being Italian. So America really is a nation of immigrants. And here in LA, that is super noticeable. I mean, you can just go around to different neighborhoods and you'll run into Thai Town, where there's a bunch of Thai people and they make amazing Thai food. Or you can go to Koreatown and all the signs and things are in Korean, and there's all these nail shops and those types of things. If you go to New York, for example, they've got Little Italy, they've got Chinatown, they've got all these places, which is really, really cool. You've got these little subculture groups, and just there's a lot of just diversity in general. And also geographically, America is very, very diverse. I mean, I don't know too many countries where you can go to a place like Alaska, which is extremely cold and icy, and they have wilderness and tons of vast open spaces and fresh air. And then you can go to a huge city like LA with sunshine year round. You can go to an island like Hawaii. You can go to New York, one of the biggest and most influential cities in the world. And all of this is encapsulated in one country. And if you look at the 48 states of America, it's almost the same size as Europe as a whole. So America is a huge country. It's very diverse, not only with the people, but also with the geography. And that's one of the reasons why I love being an American.
I get it. That's obviously true. But the thing that is maybe bad about the geography and stuff like that is in America, a lot of people aren't really able to go to other countries to experience other cultures. It's more so they travel within America, and if you don't have the means to travel to another country, then you can't really do so. But if you were to live in Sweden or anywhere else in Europe, you're really, really easily able to travel to different countries. And it's like going to a different state, but you are in a completely different country, completely different culture. And that's what I like about Europe and the thought of that versus being in the US.
I think the last numbers were like 40% of Americans have been abroad. And yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, because I think, yeah, traveling is such a healthy thing for people. You know, really opens your mind to other perspectives. And yeah, I do agree with you that, you know, in Europe it's a lot more accessible, and traveling within Europe is normally pretty cheap.
Yep, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so that's why I was really surprised to see that when you travel, even within America, from state to state, that can be...
It's so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, if you fly at least.
Now, this next point is very, very noticeable, especially when you are in LA, and that is that Americans love to drive their cars. We have a very huge car culture here in America, and after living in Stockholm for a little bit of time and being in Sweden in general, I've realized that the public transportation that you guys have in Sweden is absolutely amazing, and I've come to really enjoy and appreciate that. And coming back to LA, it's very, very difficult to get around where you want to go efficiently with public transportation. They do have subways and buses, and if you live downtown, you can probably survive without a car. But in general, pretty much everybody that lives here has a car and uses their car to get around. Where I'm from, in a suburb of Portland, Oregon, if I did not have a car growing up, I could not go out and do hardly anything. And I haven't owned a car in Sweden the entire year and a half that I've lived there, and I've never had any sort of issue getting where I need to go. And that is something that I love about Sweden. I wish that America had better public transportation like what we have over there.
This is exactly what we talk about all the time again.
Yep.
The public transportation in the US is just absolutely awful. There's some, obviously, but in other places you can't get anywhere without a car.
Yeah, right.
If you don't have a lot of money, then getting a car is a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
But then also, it's worse for the environment, and it's just a lot of different things.
It's also good to keep in mind that when you do travel to Europe, you don't really have to worry about getting a car to get around, because most places are going to have a good public transport system. But yeah, coming here, unless you're in, you know, let's say New York or Boston that do have, you know, decent public transport, you know, everywhere else it's like, yeah, if you don't get a car, then it's going to be very hard for you
Or like take Ubers the whole time and spend a ton of money on that.
Yeah, and everything is just so spread out. Yeah, it's not great, I don't think. Yeah.
That's a very kind way of putting it.
Yeah.
And this last point I want to make kind of is related to the second point I made, and that is the social competitiveness that is in American society. And it goes along with the idea of people trying to make it. It's a very, very competitive society overall. In general, Americans are very, very hardworking, which I think is a really good quality, but they also may not have the same sort of balanced lifestyle that people in Sweden and Scandinavia enjoy. I mean, people in Sweden, they get more vacation days, they get paid maternity and fraternity, they get paid maternity, and those sorts of things, much more generous in Scandinavia, which I think is a really nice thing. And also, Americans just have a very, very fast-paced way of life. One of the first things I think of in regards to this is the concept of fika that they have in Sweden, where people will go into a coffee shop and sit down and talk to people and relax and enjoy their coffee slowly. Here in America, when people go to get coffee, sometimes they'll like just go to the Starbucks drive-through and drink their coffee and go on to the next thing. And it's like, it's very, very fast-paced and very, very competitive in general, whereas Swedes know how to relax and just take it easy a little bit more, I would say.
Yep, it's such a contrast. Like here, you pretty much get shamed for taking like 2 weeks off. When I first started working, I knew I wanted to take 2 weeks off because I wanted to visit you and I wanted to actually experience a trip to Europe, not go for just a week. And I felt so weird about it, but thank God I had a boss that didn't care, and he was like, yeah, go, have fun, don't worry about it. But there are so many companies and so many people that don't feel that way. And 2 weeks, again, isn't really that long. Like in Europe, they take a month or plus off, and that's a normal thing. Yeah,
that's definitely a big one. For me moving here, I felt like you really have to be picky when it comes to companies. Like when I was applying for jobs, I spent a lot of time on Glassdoor reading reviews and especially looking at how is the work-life balance at this company and how much time off do I get. And even if you get a lot of time off, there's no guarantee that you'll actually get to use it. Whereas in Sweden and most of Europe, you never really have to worry if the company's gonna have a culture that frowns upon you taking time off. And normally the minimum you get is 5 weeks.
And that is insane here.
Yeah.
Like when we first started dating and we were talking about this, I was so surprised. I was like, you're kidding me?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you visited Sweden and you talked to my friends and this came up as well, and you told them that, yeah, you have 2 weeks of vacation every year, and you got all kinds of reactions.
And the other thing he mentioned was parental leave.
Yeah.
And it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's getting better in the US. More companies are realizing, okay, we need to actually make this a priority, but it's still not even close to what it is in Sweden.
In Sweden, the parents of the newborn are allowed to take 18 months off. So
that's just amazing.
Yeah,
like,
and you're also able to save, I think, up to 96 days until the baby is 4. So, you know, if you don't take all the 18 months in one go, then you can save some of it.
And that's the thing too, a lot of people in the US have to save sick days to take more when they're doing parental leave, or saving sick days and vacation days to be home if your kid is sick one day unexpectedly, or if there's certain days where your kid has off of school and you don't have off of work. Yeah, it's just, that's a thing that we talk about a lot too.
Yeah. I think the silver lining here is the way things are looking, there seems to at least be some form of interest to make things better in the US. So I think it's only a matter of time. When that happens, who knows? But hopefully we're heading in the right direction. And
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully you liked this reaction video. If you like the video, I don't even know.
Give us a like.
Subscribe.
You know what to do.
We're new to this, so here we go.
I wasn't expecting that to be in the video. But